I want to turn to Julie because we are talking about some of these environmental issues, and this comes into play with policy. And we have heard a little bit about the research priorities of the Fox Foundation, but how does the Fox Foundation choose its policy priorities, and how do you see that feeding into the research priorities?
Yeah, so I would say to start, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, just to kind of set the stage, we don't receive any government funding to fund our research, but what we do is a lot of advocacy in the hope that we can partner with the government so that we can help supplement each other's funding for Parkinson's research. I would say we have three main priorities at the foundation. And this is at both the state and federal level. It's really, like I said, and you'll hear me say this a lot, really the crux of it is getting funding for Parkinson's research from the governments. We're about 10 years behind Alzheimer's in that space, but we're making progress towards that, which I'll go into a little more later. But, we're behind. It's kind of a disease that unfortunately is kind of getting forgotten about in that bigger, NIH space. So that's one part. And we're seeing a lot of success so far at the state level at getting state Parkinson's funds set up. There was a big win in Texas last year. We're hoping California can follow suit. So funding first, access to care. So understanding this larger care ecosystem, insurance, assisted living, kind of what do patients need? Where can we partner again with the public sphere to make improvements there? And then thirdly, going back to what you were discussing with Bradford about the environment is, regulations around things like Paraquat, which is a highly toxic pesticide that's used in a lot of agriculture. It's banned in over 70 countries, including the countries that manufacture it, which is kind of ironic. Yep, but they send it to us still. So it's used in the US, it's used here in California. And so, we see a lot of people in the Central Valley that have Parkinson's and start having symptoms young. So, we know that there's clearly this connection between the onset of symptoms and something like Paraquat. And so where policy comes in is really the government is the thing that's going to have to put those regulations in and banning something like Paraquat and providing, my policy colleagues, because they get this question, is what are the alternatives to Paraquat? And they've confirmed there are alternatives. If there are any farmers in the room, you can, confirm a little more about that. But so that's really where we need partnership from the government. And then that's where we come in is like, well, why is something like Paraquat so damaging? And then that's where the people come in. Really advocacy in our policy work is we have these amazing numbers and data and the work from researchers. But this kind of helps representatives see the people and the lived experiences behind all the science and that hard data. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And just to bring it home, we know that Paraquat is used in Coachella Valley. We know that East Coachella Valley has a very large-scale farming community, and there were tests conducted on the soil in East Coachella Valley, found that the contamination of toxins in East Coachella Valley is 95th percentile, some of the most toxic soil in California in terms of pesticide saturation. And 4 of the top 5 chemicals that were pregnant have been linked to Parkinson's. So this is an issue here for Coachella Valley as well as for Central Valley, as well as for the rest of the United States.